It's interesting with your labor background and organizing experience, kind of that grassroots kind of mentality you have. Kind of how are you using that to kind of help shape kind of private entities and their kind of lobbying experience?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the when I launched the firm, my goal was to represent like-minded organizations, but basically to share the models of what makes labor powerful and influential in California. These, I like to say, it's not rocket science. It's just having honed over decades how you mobilize voters, how you participate in political action, how you do, massive mobilization around legislation and call-in days and rallies and
Right.
all this sort of like pieces of the formula that wound up resulting in successful, big passage of bills or whatever. And it's not always, clearly it's not always all the time, right? We have losses and wins like everybody else, but what I learned was, okay, so when you're in Sacramento, what can you be doing at the local level to help push the conversation forward? And so it's what I am doing is replicating or teaching, advising, guiding other organizations, like, as much as possible, right? Because these are different groups with different funding and all sorts of other stuff. But as much as possible, there are things that have been honed to a science and they can be replicated. And let's try to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing people point to with kind of labor is, they have so many members and dues and huge political action committees. You know, I guess for a little client who doesn't have the volume, doesn't have the number of employees,
Right.
doesn't have the funding, kind of what would you recommend? What are some of the things they can do, these kind of little clients, to kind of replicate kind of some of the things?
Right. Well, it's two things. It's boots on the ground and it's money, right? If you are not in a position to play the money game, there's a lot you can do around mobilization at the local level. I like to always go back to all politics is local, which, we all learned about in Poli-Sci 101, or at least I did.
Right.
I didn't really understand what that meant until I started working in the labor movement, which was, how do you connect people with, like, the bread and butter issues, the kitchen table issues and all that? How do you then translate that into participation in politics? Because, how many people, if you went out and just asked your neighbor, do you know who represents you in Sacramento?
Right.
I'm guessing maybe 20% of folks would know, right? So there's a lot that organizations can do just in terms of educating, training, and mobilizing their existing networks, building them into broader networks, trying to build coalitions with other organizations around the state to make their footprint bigger, and then translating all of that into then activating those networks to send a message and to, basically communicate to legislators what communities want them to do versus one-off, I'm just one person and I'm making a phone call and that's the end of it. I see it as, how do you expand the networks that you have, and then how do you activate them so that you're all working in unison? Those are things that even small organizations can do.
Hi, and welcome to Sacktown Talks. Thank you so much for watching our content. If you like it, make sure to hit that like button, and please make sure to subscribe.